Michter's small batch American whiskey for America. Let's do this. Hi, welcome to Whisky Riffs. I'm Kevin, and today we're going to do an American whiskey, Michter's, which is a small batch, unblended American whiskey. It's 41.7% alcohol by volume, or 83.4% proof, and it is almost gone. As I started last week, I did an inventory of my bottles, and I said, I want to make sure that I get reviews on these whiskeys that are really low, that have very little left, before I go ahead and drink them, and then I regret not giving you a review of them. So Michter's is up on the list. I poured a glass, but I still have a little tiny bit left. So what is American whiskey? Basically, it's any whiskey that is distilled and created in America. It doesn't have to be bottled here, I don't believe, but the requirement is that it must be made here. Michter's makes a small batch American whiskey, and this is a favorite of their distiller, and it's actually been off the market for a few years. I got my bottle I bought this back in early 2018 or at the end of 2017, and so I haven't even noticed, but they said it was off the market for almost 3 years. And now it's back. I'm really glad it's back. As you can see, I do behave sometimes. I don't always drink my bottles within a few weeks. And I don't know why I had this still in the back of my cabinet, but I'm glad I did so I can give you a review. It's a really great whiskey. It has a lot of the flavors that you would expect from a bourbon. The difference is, because they call it an American whiskey and not a bourbon, it doesn't have to be aged in new oak casks. That means they can use any casking they want, and in this case they've used bourbon casks. So you get the flavors from a bourbon that come through. You lose some of that new oak flavoring that you get with a bourbon, but I think it's a really good balance, and they're very particular about this whiskey. So it is one that it has a lot of love and a lot of care in it. Michter's has a long history. It wasn't originally called Michter's. It was started by John Schenck back in the 1700s, and he named it Schenk's creatively. And then in the mid 1800s, Adam Bomberger bought the distillery and named it Bomberger's. And then it went on for years until the Prohibition era, when a lot of distilleries went out of business. And then it kind of changed hands several times. Then in the 1950s, it was purchased again by Lou Foreman, who gave it the name Michter's. In 1989, when a lot of distilleries were struggling because clear spirits were all the rage, and the whiskey was dad's drink and not a young person's drink, so they were buying vodkas and tequilas, and whiskey was just not going anywhere. Michter's had serious troubles, and again had to basically shut down or nearly shut down for several years. In the 1990s, it was bought again by two whiskey enthusiasts that decided to restore Michter's to its original glory and bring back the processes and the flavors that it was known for in the earlier days. And with so many of these kind of enthusiasts, I believe it was Dick Newman and Joseph Magliacco. We'll go with Magliacco. We'll just say Joe and Dick decided to get the distillery back in line. And they decided to really honor the Michter's heritage and do what they could to make the best whiskey possible. They weren't worried about cost. They were worried about flavors. They were worried about quality. And they wanted to make sure that that's what this name stood for once again. That's long heritage. They felt like it was worth putting the investment into it. They gambled correctly since whiskey came back in vogue, and they were right at the right time for it. They have several whiskeys now. They have ryes, they have bourbons, they have small batch American whiskeys, and a few others. Today, Michter's has 3 locations in Kentucky, with their largest location, a 78,000 square foot distillery just outside of Louisville. Their master distiller is Willie Pratt, and he's affectionately known as Dr. No, because he won't let any whiskey go out the doors until it's just right. And I believe that's why they stopped production on this for 3 years. He wanted to make sure that their small batch American whiskey had the right flavor profile and stopped production. As I said, I didn't realize that. I bought this early enough and had it around since then. I haven't tried to buy another one until recently, when I looked at my collection and said, oh, I'm out of Michter's. So now you can get it. I just checked. It is available in my area. It should have pretty good distribution. And I think we should get into the flavors now and see what we got with this American whiskey. Now, if you look at the bottle and you look at the glass here, you might see a very different coloring in the two. And the reason for that is this bottle has a bump in the bottom, and that bump is making the whiskey look much thinner than it does in the glass. So I did pour this whiskey into this glass. It looks very different, but they are the exact same whiskey, and that is the true golden color of it. Now the nose, it's sweet. It's going to remind you of a bourbon. It's finished, it's actually aged in bourbon casks, so you're going to get some of that flavoring. It may not have some of the original bourbon notes that you get from the new oak cask, but I'm getting caramel and red apple and some sweetness there. A tiny bit of spice, maybe like a cinnamon. Maybe some other sweet fruits. A little citrus, but it's sweeter than that. It's more like a it's kind of giving me hints of a grape, like almost like a wine flavoring. I don't know where the wine would come. That's just in my head. Maybe that's the grape flavors I've got going on. On the taste, it's very smooth. It has a little spiciness right up front. Caramel. It's got some vanilla in it, which is common for an American whiskey, a bourbon style whiskey. Not bourbon style. More spice on the palate. A lot of oak spice on the palate, and especially in the finish. That spice lingers on the finish. You can definitely taste the vanilla on the finish too. That lingers. And because it's not too high proof, there's very little burn, but it does, there's a lot of wood notes in here, a lot of nice sweetness. I'm getting more of the apples the fruit flavors. There's something else there that I can't place. Maybe it's just maybe a little tobacco flavor with the caramel. Let's go ahead and add some water to this. It shouldn't need too much. Like I said, it's already a very pleasant whiskey. It's not jumping at you. And a couple of people asked me about my eyedropper here. When I fill one eyedropper full, that's actually 1 milliliter. So if I put 2 squirts in, that's basically 2 milliliters. I'll start with 1, see what that does to the nose. The nose flattens out a little bit, gets sweeter. I'm not getting the spice on the nose at all. Maybe more of a brown sugar note on the nose. And on the taste, not much change. We'll go ahead and throw a little bit more water in there, another milliliter. I'm getting a little bit of a sour note after that first add of water. I'm getting a lot more of a cinnamon spice now with the 2 milliliters of water in there. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of the cinnamon. I actually liked it better without the water, but you've probably heard me say that too many times. I do like the higher proof whiskeys, and I think this one was proof just right at its original level. The price for Michter's American whiskey small batch is around $45 to $50. I don't remember what I actually paid for this back in the day, but right now I just checked the prices, and my favorite spot to get whiskey, it's $45. So I may pick up another bottle, or I think I'll jump into their other varieties and see if I can taste one of their bourbons. I got into the American whiskey expression because of the Whiskey Vault. I watched one of their shows years ago, and they were raving about this, and I could see why. You know, it was one of those, I never heard of the name before, and then after I tasted it, I went, wow, people should know about this, and apparently a lot of people do know about it. So if you're a bourbon fan and you want to try something that's just a little bit different, has a few different flavor notes, and is not that expensive, I would give this a shot. It's definitely approachable. There's nothing that's going to shock you about it, and it has some really nice variety of flavors in it. And at $45, it's a little more expensive than the base bourbons, but I think it's a nice change off of the standard flavor profile that you would get from, let's say, a Buffalo Trace. If you're enjoying these videos, please give me a like, subscribe, and bang that bell so YouTube can give you a notification when new episodes come out. I know this can be hard on a lot of people. A lot of us are isolated at home, or worse, we're isolated in a group of people that maybe on a day-to-day basis raises tensions or frustrations. The best thing we can do is breathe through this. And some of the things that I've tried to do are to reach out to friends, FaceTime with them. In fact, I have a bunch of friends from work that we used to go out for dinners, and we can't do that right now. So our solution was, we're going to have these group FaceTime sessions, and we all pour ourselves a drink, have a few laughs, mock each other out, enjoy just some social time without having to be in the same room. At least we're getting some connection, some social interaction outside of our own homes, and it's really helped. I hope you're finding some outlet like that. I hope you have someone to connect with. Don't hesitate to reach out to friends and communicate. I think we can all just help each other through this. And I'll raise a glass to as quick a resolution to this time, and hopefully we can get out and share the face-to-face moments as soon as possible. Cheers.